Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 6. I'm Kerry,
And I'm Daphne.
and this is Ask
Eh?
Kerry. So it's been a while, and as you can see, we're in a different spot. We been so busy that we were recording this one in the office. This is my main primary office where everything happens. That my lovely wife has helped me decorate and redecorate and make it nice and comfortable. But we've been away for a little while since our last
Mhm.
recording. We've been a lot of things going on, a lot of exciting things going on, wouldn't you say?
Indeed.
Exactly.
I'm looking
Well,
forward to the future.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So wanted to share a couple of things with you before we get into the question. Is that one thing I'm very excited about is that some of you may know, or if you've been following along on social media, you've been seeing the latest blog. You've heard me mention about a new book series. So in 2012, my book Horse Profiling came out, and that was been a long time ago now. And since that time, I'm one of those people that continues to dig and research and study and learn. And I want to know more tomorrow than I know today. So after all these years since 2012, I've got the urge to start a new book series. So
So excited for this series to come out.
yeah, and it's not going to be a part two. It's not going to be an extension of that necessarily. So I'm starting what they call a monographic series, which is a series of books under the same title, and the title is A View from the Hoof. And my scheduled start date to start writing is actually this Wednesday.
Exciting.
Yeah, the date will be the 13th. I have it written down there. So this is where it'll happen, actually, and this is where all the evaluations happen. This is where most of the Zoom phone calls happen. People who have Zoom with me on their cases can probably recognize some of the background, but very excited for that. And some of you may not know this, but I've been a published author before the horse book. I wrote some mystery fiction back in the 90s and had a Images the Mist was published. I had a book called Prophet Mind published. So before I started writing horse books, I wrote novels. I also have penned two, what they call, I guess the category would be middle grade novels. They're chapter books for middle grades, and they're finished. And
And they're being
they're
edited
being edited.
now.
Yes, we have a literary agent signed and editor signed. Welcome to the team, Julie, and we are progressing on those. I have already also in the hopper 3 other novels that are not horse related, but there are novels that are ready to be edited and revised. So a lot of exciting things going on. But the new books, I'm going to start writing on Wednesday, and then dear to my heart has always been, I've been a caregiver for a large portion of my life, and it's a lot of you are familiar with the struggles emotionally that you go through with that on both ends. The person you're caring for and yourself. And I've always wanted to write a book about these experiences and about how I personally navigated emotionally to stay strong and to continue providing the utmost care. And so I'm simultaneously going to be writing a book called The Caregiver's Handbook. And I'm going to write that at the same time I'm writing the horse books. And yes, I can do that because I can compartmentalize the two things.
And yes, he really can. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
He'll just flip a switch, and next thing I know, he's on to something else. And I'm like, how did you do that? Kind of a little ADD, but very structured ADD.
It's situational chaos, I call it. It's like we have all these notebooks, and I have notebooks for everything. So I have you'll never see me if you see me out personally. I usually have a notebook with me because I like to write things down. For me, writing things down is how I think through things. Like I can't give a thought into text as well or type it as well as if I write it down the first time. Then it really starts to flow, and then I can take it from that and put it to the computer. But I have notebooks every place, and so I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to get started. And I also wanted to do the A View from the Hoof series, and we talked about this, Daphne and I. I could put together. I have 6 books outlined, and if you go to our website, kerrymthomas.com, and check out the most recent blog, you can see I give a book list title there of the books that are coming out that I have planned. And I was going to make, I could write them all together and make this, much larger volume of that it's a book. But
then you would wind up carrying a 15-pound
well,
book
no, and
around.
I think there's different subjects that I want to focus on, and like I said, you can see the titles there that I have planned out. But I wanted to make them smaller and more consumable, and then when I'm finished all of them, they'll be out. We'll probably probably put together a full volume of all of them.
So let me ask you this: how does it coincide with the View from the Hoof course that you have on the school?
Well, that's a good question, and that's not the Ask Kerry question, but that is a good question. So yes, there is a View from the Hoof series of lectures that are 2 lectures are there, and the book will be the lectures will be snippets and bits of the larger picture that will be in the book, and it'll be an extension of that, and so they will work together for sure. And that's also very exciting because sometimes you don't have a chance to consume the entire volume of books, but you can listen to a lecture and get the downloads on that and everything. So we will work together on those 2 things.
Excellent.
They'll be partners. They'll be compatible one to the other.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
And then I understand we're going to turn them into audibles.
Yes, we're going to definitely audible them and audibleize them. And
which is perfect for those who are, out trail riding. They can just put their headphones on and go, or out when they're driving over to the barn, start listening.
Or cleaning your house,
whatever,
or whatever the case may be.
I'm more of a listener, so.
I'm going to do the audibles, and my plan is to read them myself.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, that's what
you have such a great presentation voice.
Well, thank you, and I want to read them myself because I think it's important for me as the author to be able to verbally emphasize, what is important. Just to hear me talk about it, I think, I don't know. I've always wanted to do it, so I'm just going to make sure that I am the reader of the books, and probably all the books that I put out from here on out. I have decided that I should also be the person who reads them to you because, as the writer, your emphasis on different things, even if it's a novel or the middle grade novels, those kind of things. It's like the characters and stuff. Right. So I'll look. It'll be time consuming, I'm sure, but it's okay. There's 24 hours in a day. There's plenty of time to get a bunch of things done. So
good thing I work with you, so I can see.
Well, without you, this wouldn't be happening. So we also have another really exciting announcement.
Yes. So excited about this.
Yes.
We have now brought on a event management and client relation person, and that is Abigail. I'm super excited. Thank you, Abigail, for joining us and helping us and helping my workload and Kerry's workload and delegating some of that out.
It's very exciting. For us, it was getting to the point where I want to continue to travel, do more things here in America, but also continue our travels overseas and do presentations and lectures. And I love meeting people. I love the opportunity to learn from other people, and getting out there and being present and listening to people and seeing their horses, evaluating horses, and sharing each other's story during the course of those clinics and lectures. But it's overwhelming. It takes so much time to put everything together with all the workload.
And I'm still running my business.
Your business, Designed by Daphne, is still booming. So we're pulled in every direction. And then I'm, primary caregiver for my disabled mother. So that's a 7-day-a-week thing that you're involved in. It takes a big chunk of the day out. So there's just a lot of moving parts, and we just needed the help. And I was very happy.
So we brought on another hat. We let one of those hats go, and now she carries that load.
Yeah. Abigail's going to be great, and she's going to be handling and taking care of a lot of things for us, and she's already awesome. So I can't wait for anyone who wants to, have an event, client relations. You can, if you can't get a hold of Daphne and I, you get a hold of Abigail.
And you'll find her information on our website.
Yeah, you can go to the About page and find her.
And meet her a little bit. So.
Yep. So. Great. All right, so they have all those preliminary things and all the catch-ups over since we haven't been on here for a while. And exciting. So let's talk about one more thing.
Oh, no.
We have to mention that, we're now kicking off the podcast. So,
yes.
So these episodes, if you don't have time to watch them all on YouTube, and you're driving around, we're starting off it's not called the same thing. It's not called Ask Kerry. Ask Kerry episodes are on our podcast platform that's called Life Through the Senses. And the reason I have it as that is because we're going to be talking about a multifaceted amount of different things on that podcast as we get it up and going, and would really love it if you would support that and listen to that. And
we'll have Destination Hope podcast on there also.
Destination Hope podcast
and then just general podcasts. We might interview some clients and have them come on and talk about their cases or whatnot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and you know, it's
Stay
kind of,
tuned. You can find that information on the website too. If you go down to the drop down where it says podcast, you'll find the information for the podcast. You can hit the direct link, and it'll take you to all of them.
yeah.
So.
I'm excited for that because it gives a chance to reach people in a different way. You know, I know myself, I would listen to a podcast if you know, if I'm doing something and that kind of thing. So it's nice for people like different ways to get their information. And so, you know, that's another new thing for us that we're working to build up and manifest. So that's also at the inception, but we're excited to get that going. And so we've decided to take these episodes, extract the audio, and put them on there, which Daphne did, thankfully. You don't want me doing it. That we did that. So now we have kind of the base there that we can begin to expand from that. So that's exciting too. So
yeah, it's good stuff.
It gets to a point in your career where you can decide to try to struggle where you are, back off, or put your chips on the table and go all in. And you know, we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's like too many exciting things going on, too many great people that we've met, too much great support that it's like, you know what, I'm not going to back off. Staying the same is just not feasible because we just, you know, we're just working crazy amount of hours to keep everything up. So let's bring in some quality help, and that's what we've done. So that means that the future is bright. So we have 2025 planned out pretty well as far as international tours. You can wait. We'll be sharing that information the more we know about that. But we have some things in the works. So we might be coming to a town near you. So,
so stay tuned.
So, okay, now.
So back to the task at hand.
The original objective, yes. Okay.
We have writers write in to me. They send me emails asking questions to Kerry. And I have one here. This is from Nishka from the Netherlands. And it says, Dear Kerry, my question has to do with bachelor-herd relationships. I have on occasion moved one of my boys in and out of his herd for different reasons, be it changing pastures or training purposes, and most of the time he has not much trouble with this. But this time he was the only gelding of the 4 that were together, and when I moved him, his character became more troubled than the times before. Because he didn't act this way when he was with mostly geldings, and now he acted differently having left the colts, I wonder if this is because he feels a sense of exposure more than before. Thank you for considering my question for your show, Nishka from the Netherlands. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, Nishka, yeah. So yes. Relationships, the troubles we have with relationships. Even the boys sometimes have trouble with relationships. Well, you know, interestingly, in the natural herd dynamic, there are no geldings. So this is, you know, the whole gelding thing is basically a whole chapter in the book, which it will be, more than likely. You know, it's kind of its own thing. So there's a lot of different factors that are involved in that. From a herd structure standpoint, though, yes, there are differences because when geldings are together and there's just geldings together, you know, the hierarchy can fluctuate, but they can tolerate one another in a much more amiable way sometimes because there's no real jagged edges to the testosterone, to the.
I was going to say not a lot of testosterone
to where they fit. So geldings tend to, you know, they can interchange their hierarchical positioning with a lot more ease and a lot more fluid. Because of that, because of that drive is gone, and it really obviously it depends on when the horse was gelded to where they are on that particular spectrum as far as how much they've been entire for how long, how young were they gelded, those kind of things. A lot of different personality traits come in, but when you geld a horse, it does mitigate the expression somewhat, and so it does change the communication dynamics. They tend to just want to get along, and they tend to just kind of fit together. We can feel that they fit together nicely, but they may not. But they are more tolerant of the fluctuations, so they're not as loud sometimes. But when you put a gelding into with colts, now you have an actual real, you have a more defined and natural bachelor herd situation. So now the gelding who probably could feel a sense of exposure with other geldings because he doesn't have a lot of power in there, so they kind of fluctuate and help hide each other with that camouflage. Now he gets into a bachelor herd and he has an actual position. And when you have an actual position, you're a part of that chain, and he knows where he fits. And that's very, very securing. It makes you feel very, very secure. And it's very comforting in a lot of ways. And there's a structure there. There's a communicative structure that happens. And when you're pulled away from that structure that really makes you feel the most safe, you can feel very exposed by that, and you can feel a sense of longing for that. It's like, wait a minute, now I feel exposed. The camouflage I have with this structure is gone. I felt safer. I felt more confident with these other horses because
they were like me.
Well, no, the colts, they have a definitive structure. This is what I expect from you.
Okay.
This is how it works.
Right.
So you know what your job is. The geldings, they don't really have that pressure because there's so many moving parts, and this is kind of like, oh, okay, you kind of float out, and you don't feel a sense of exposure because you don't feel a strong sense of belonging either. And as far as that tight knit natural group, you have a sense of belonging in as much as that you have herd mates and pasture mates, but the hierarchy is less structured, so you don't have the separation anxiety or that sense of isolation being removed from them as you would from a very structured family unit. And the bachelor herds do have a very structured family unit, so that is probably more than often than not is going to cause some ruckus in that. And what you're seeing, Nishki, is that sense of that loud expression, like, wait a minute, I suddenly feel exposed. I felt very covered up and very camouflaged, and I knew where I fit with my buddies, and now you're taking me from that, and I'm not quite as I feel a sense of exposure. I'm not quite as happy as I was. When you're with the geldings, there's not as much structure, so like I said, it's more fluid, so you definitely, you can kind of move in and out of that with less noticeable stress. However, the key to remember is that horses can camouflage their stress, and they don't want to be picked out of the crowd necessarily. So a group of geldings together, there can be a lot of stress in there, and they may not express it. It may not be expressed the same way. When there's no stress in the colts, when you actually fit and you don't have any stress, and you come out of that, now all of a sudden you do feel a sense of exposure. And that's without me knowing the horse and without seeing the actual horses and seeing what's going on, that is more than likely what the situation is, because it has to do with the hierarchical structure, the fit, and the sense of safety within that. So, yeah, it can be very interesting for sure. And you're learning a lot about this stuff as we go along, and you're seeing a lot of different things yourself.
That I am. I'm just thinking about, all the geldings together and how they're just kind of like calmer.
Well, it depends.
It depends on the horse.
It's not that you won't. It's not that you're not going to have disruptions and arguments and things of that nature. You're going to have those sometimes those bickerings and those little things. And I'm going to hang out with you, and I'm going to hang out with you. But there's less structure there's less structure. There's less structure to the communication. There's less structure to that. The puzzle doesn't fit. We have to remember that a herd is not made up of a number of horses. It's made up of the emotional connection between those horses, between its members. So the emotional connection that gelding would have being with a structured group of bachelors that are colts, that are not geldings, will be different than the sensitivities and the feelings that he'll have with other horses that are also just like him. And they all kind of fit somewhere in the middle, probably, but the structure is not as rigid and it's a lot more fluid. So there is at once oftentimes less loudness because moving each other around, but it also can be just as much stress. So the horses can make us feel very complacent when it comes to those kind of things. But structure is everything. Horses like to have that emotional structure. They want to know, they feel harmony with their environment and contentment with their peers when they know where they fit, and they look for the next level up. The horse down here doesn't skip two horses and look for leadership up here. It's the next rung up. That's where that leadership goes. And because geldings are very often are very close, they can kind of fluctuate. So there's really they're all can kind of help each other in a lot of ways. But when you have a hard structure, now we have a hierarchical plane in place, and now when you pull that out, it's like Jenga. So it's kind of like Jenga pieces flat out for the geldings, and Jenga pieces in a hierarchy in a structure with the bachelor herds, and that's a little bit that's kind of how it would be from an emotional standpoint.
I know I have a lot to learn, and that's why I'm so looking forward to you putting the books out about all of this so that I can continue to learn and understand, not coming from a background of being around horses. It's a lot for me to understand and learn.
You've gotten the crash course in the last couple of years.
I really have. And so, understanding how the colts and the geldings are coming together.
And there's a lot to that because there's a lot to do with the family herd. You have the family structure, you have the bachelor structure. We put geldings into this scenario. So there's a lot there. I mean, we could go on and on for hours about this topic, and it is in our presentations, and it will be covered in the book. But that's the snippet of it. Is it has to do with a hierarchy. And it doesn't mean that a gelding structure doesn't have structure, because it does. Every horses together will have some kind of structure. There's some sort of continuity there, but the rigidity of it, how defined it is, it's less defined with the geldings because they're less defined in their who they are because of what happened to them.
Right.
Because so now they're kind of in this purgatory range emotionally. And they can be a little bit coltish, they can be a little bit filly-ish, they can kind of go in and out, and they kind of just like to get along. Ultimately they like to get along, and their way of finding harmony and contentment is just to be appeasing more often than not. When they get put into a situation where there is a structure, like with the colts, now they've been given a job, you've been given a placement, and that's actually very comforting to have structure. Horses like that, especially emotional structure, where they really feel connected, they feel safe, and they're not afraid of everything in the environment. They don't have to interpret everything in the environment. So, but it's a unique topic. Herd dynamics is a fascinating topic, and I can't wait until Wednesday to start writing about these things.
Well, I know you have them pretty much written. It's just organizing all of your notes and putting it together in book format.
The first book really is close to being. As far as the content is very, very close to.
And having Julie doing all the editing, it's great because they'll get out a little bit faster. And
So exciting time. So we're real happy about that. So that wraps up episode 6 of Ask Kerry, and thanks for being here.
Yep. And if you have a question that you would like to ask Kerry and have it on air, you can email your question to Daphne@sensorysoundness.com. And we will see if we can get it answered for you.
Yeah, sign up, and we're going to put we're going to have a box, I think, on social media that people can send in their questions to, and you can get a hold of us that way. Sure. Submit your questions that way. We'd like to thank.
And you can always leave it if you're happy to watch this on YouTube. You can ask a question even on the YouTube comments if you want to. So
yeah, we should definitely see them there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to sponsor an episode, let us know that too, and get your logo there, and we always appreciate that. So, all right, well, until next time,
thank you. Be the bridge.
And not the block. That's right.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.